All right, hello, welcome to the Off by One security stream. It is, what is today? I don't even remember the date right now. March 8th, that's what it is, our second Friday of the month. So thanks to everyone who is joining right now. And Randall, in the background, do you mind going and retweeting? Actually, I should probably do that real quickly. Actually, no, it's going to automatically tweet. I don't need to do that. Never mind. So I didn't get a chance to retweet the stream this morning, but I forgot that it automatically retweets once we go and start it. So I don't have to worry about that right now. So again, this session is going to be on some scripting with IDA Pro. I've had a lot of guests on lately, so I haven't been doing solo streams that much. I've got a couple things planned and things that I'm working on for actual just videos, which is great. I'm hoping that I can get some of the quality to be a bit better since, when you're streaming, things can go wrong. You don't really have control over a lot of the things. And I've got someone helping me out. I'll announce that soon, who that is, helping me out with some edits, hopefully going forward, which will really help with things. I plan on taking the videos that are the streams and identifying some interesting parts in them and cutting them out, having them edited and then posting them, because I think they'll be in more digestible chunks for people, because I know not everyone can sit here for an hour or however long we run these sessions. But I also have plans to run some sessions that are going to be pre-recorded, with that being the intention. So in that environment, I'm hoping that I can get some much more higher quality videos. But I don't want to stop doing the streams, because I do think that it is a neat thing to do. It's not something that a lot of different content creators do on things like hacking and the like. And I think it's a good opportunity for things to be interactive, for you to ask questions and for me to get good feedback. But, there's also a lot of value in, of course, having something that's better produced. So in this session, I'm going to be giving away a copy of IDA Pro and the Hexrays decompiler. Thanks to Hexrays themselves. It's a very generous gift. I'm sure you know how expensive that product is. And it's a fantastic tool. And for many of us who have a company or have someone who's sponsoring us and paying for that tool, a lot of us, or most of us, I can say that we tend to stick with that. There are other amazing tools out there. We saw one recently with Binary Ninja. We saw Ghidra, and there are certainly some fantastic alternatives. I've been using IDA Pro for well over a decade or two. I don't know how long it's been, but you just kind of stick with what you know. But there are fantastic things about all the different tools out there. IDA Pro, for whichever OS you want, you get to choose the platform, and you get to choose one architecture for the decompiler. So if you want ARM or x86-64, completely up to you. But we do only have one to give away. Again, that's a pretty large prize. I'll be giving that at the end of this session, and I'm going to do it via a trivia question, something that's, for most of you, unless you've got really, really good memory and understanding of the x86 64-bit instruction set, you'll probably have to go and look that up. So I'm going to give the question, and I'll type it up at the same time and read it at the same time, and then the first one to post the answer that I'm looking for, and there's a very specific answer that I am expecting, that will be the person who is the winner. I did one of these once before where we gave away an IDA Pro license, and with that one we did a binary challenge, and I got a lot of feedback from people that they felt like it really excluded them from it, because maybe they focus on other things. Maybe they're a malware analyst, or maybe they work on other things, not specifically a Linux heap overflow, which is what it was. Maybe they're more on the Windows side. So I wanted to do something that was a bit more just right down the center. Anybody can look this up and get the answer pretty quickly. All right, enough about that. We'll get back to it a little bit later. I've done a few sessions on IDA in the past. Most recently, I did one on Flirt and Flare and how we can use that. I've done one on what else was it? Oh, looking and building structures, recreating structures that you don't know, because you find it, obviously buried inside some input file, and you want to recreate that to help you out in your reversing. I've also used it a ton in binary diffing, in analyzing mitigation. So we use this tool a lot on the stream. So I was kind of thinking, what would I want to show in this one that might be something a little bit different? I'm not really a malware reverse engineering guru. I've done certainly quite a bit of it, but that's not my specialty. So I decided, well, let's do some scripting, because When you think about vulnerability discovery, and by the way, for those of you who have been asking, I did talk with Oscar Tejeda, and we will be doing a fuzzing session coming up in the next few weeks. I think probably it might be a little bit more than a few weeks. I'm thinking like the first Friday in May, but I've got a lot of streams in the interim plan, but that one's going to be a session on smart fuzzing. So for those of you who have been waiting and looking forward to something like that, I will announce more about that in a bit. But one of the other ways that we find vulnerabilities besides fuzzing is, of course, you can do binary diffing. Binary diffing allows you to do a couple things. One, you get to find a vulnerability that was patched, and you get to see how that vendor patches those types of bugs. So obviously you can find the vulnerability, see if you can weaponize it, and the faster you can weaponize it, the more valuable it is. And we typically call that end day exploitation. Used to say patch Tuesday, exploit Wednesday, but that's very rare that you can weaponize something that quickly, but it has happened. And then the other thing that's good with patch diffing is that since you get to identify and understand how a vendor like Microsoft or Oracle or Apple patches a certain type of vulnerability, you can then use that knowledge to go look for other instances of that same type of vulnerability. And that's one of the things I want to do in this session. I want to do a patch diff. I want to look to see what they did, how they patched it, and then we're going to write a script to then go and find that same bug as if it were a 0-day. Because the idea is if your script works and you're actually finding the vulnerability, then you should be able to use that to find new vulnerabilities that aren't patched. So that's one of the cool things you can do, and I'll show. Another thing I was going to show is just a simple starter script on maybe like how you would approach writing a ROP chain or ROP gadget finder in IDA Pro. There's a lot of things we can do. I might demo another one. We'll see how long it takes for us to get through those. But that's kind of the gist that we'll go through. So Kahoot games. Does IDA Home include decompilation functionality? So there's an online decompiler that you can use depending on your license, and it's in the cloud, and you do get some use of that. So you just have to look at the different license types that IDA offers or Hexphrase offers. They've got the home license, and they've got the named license, and then they've got the named one is set to a certain person, and then they've got like another license, which is a machine license, where anybody using that one machine can use IDA, but it's not tied to a specific name. So different license types and different architectures. You just need to go on the Hexphrase site and take a look at the different options there. And those of you who have signed up for one of my courses, Sec 760, which is an advanced exploit dev course, you probably remember you do get a free, well, no, I shouldn't say free. You get an included copy of IDA Pro. It's a 4-month license, full access. And then if you want to be able to use it beyond that date, Hexphrase gives you a pretty significant discount. It's like 50% off or something if you want to extend that license. But enough on that. Let's get back to the stream here. So just quick shout out. I did start a members option on YouTube. And the reason I did that is because if you've joined the Discord server, and Randall in the background there, if you could put the Discord link up, that'd be great. I started a Discord server a couple of weeks ago, and we're up over 900 people so far, which is pretty great. And one of the channels I created was about like a charity or something like that, where I want to be able to use any donations to be able to help someone get to a training, maybe get to DEF CON, maybe depending on how much money comes in over the time. YouTube takes 20%. And I want to create a little progress bar that shows you how much money has been donated thus far. And I want to identify, one person at a time as funds come in to then be able to get them a training or get them to DEF CON, or we'll see how it goes. If it's not that much that comes in, maybe we'll be able to get a couple people access to one of the subscription-based trainings for a period of time. Or if it's more, maybe a bigger training that we could offer. I have had quite a few guests come on and give free training seats or discounted training seats as well, which is fantastic. So we'll see how that goes. But if you do want to sign up as a member, that's what's going to happen with the funds, as well as I'm hoping to be able to print up some giveaways, some swag or whatever. I want to get some hoodies pressed and such, and I want to be able to give stuff like that out to people. So a quick shout out though to Frostbite. He's my first gold member who's signed up there, and that's really awesome. That's a huge deal to me for anyone signing up to be a member, because no one has to do that. I created the stream as being something that's 100% free, and it is going to stay that way. This is just an option if you do want to donate something to help some people get to a training or get access to resources that they may not be able to get access to. So that being said, let's jump in now. So I've got IDA already up on the screen. Just a quick note, I'm using IDA 8.3 right now instead of 8.4. And the reason I'm doing that is because I was just doing some scripting the other day, and I was running into a couple of problems that I don't experience with 8.3, but I am experienced with 8.4. So I'm working on opening a ticket with Hexrace to figure out what that problem is. So just for now, just so I don't run into that issue, I'm going to use 8.3. But everything's identical. The only difference between 8.3 and 8.4 that we care about today is, like, you might notice the buttons and the things on the ribbon bar, the icons aren't as well designed, right? Like things like that we can notice. But Hexrace has been doing amazing work on upgrading the product and adding tons of new features. So it's really cool anytime a new version comes out. So right now I'm on a Windows 10 system here, just because that's where one of my little build environments is set up. And I'm gonna remove the camera. I'll take the camera on and off at times because I want to get more real estate on the screen. I know one of the challenges is being able to see the font when we're doing reversing and exploit development. It's kind of hard to see things. So I'll zoom in as well, but I'm gonna go ahead and kill the camera for right now so that we have more real estate. Give me a second to get that going. There we go. I don't know if it helps that much, but it might help a little bit. All right, so I've got my Windows system here. We've got IDA up, and in the background here, I've got PyCharm up. If you haven't used PyCharm before, it's kind of like a dedicated IDE for Python for the most part. And one of the things that's really nice about it is you can set up your build configuration so that it communicates via server client model with IDA Pro. So you can basically type in things. You can execute your script here, and it will then go and execute that in IDA so you can see if it works while IDA is up, which is kind of nice to have your IDE up and IDA Pro up to be able to do that at the same time. You just got to set the build configuration options. You can also set it up so that you've got all the library information ported in and mapped out so that you can get that introspection that we like to have with Python, to where if you ever looked at the API with Hexrace and IDA Pro, it's quite large, and it certainly is very helpful if you get some of that introspection and such popping up while you're typing out these commands. There is probably going to be a time or two where I need to jump over to a browser to look at the I still have in my head the old API sometimes stuck in my brain, and ever since IDA, I think it was when IDA 7 came out at some point, that they changed the API, switched it over, and obviously all the names got redone for all the functions to standardize them. So I might have to jump over there a couple of times, but right now up on the screen is a script I wrote a long time ago, and we're not going to spend much time here, but this is one that takes the Microsoft ban.h file and takes all the functions that have been deprecated or antiquated and are considered dangerous and that you shouldn't be using. Originally, this was part of the Microsoft Security Development Lifecycle program that they started way back in 2002 or 3. And that came out after Bill Gates' Trustworthy Computing memo, where it basically said, you know, we've been getting hacked, and we need to do better. So they started Patch Tuesday, and they started the SDL. And the SDL is all about mapping security into each phase of the development lifecycle. So for example, if you're actually writing your code during that phase, then you could do things like static code review or static analysis. You can do during the design phase and the implementation phase, you can do attack surface reduction and threat modeling. So you have a lot of different options there that get mapped in. Another example is dynamic analysis. So fuzzing gets mapped into the validation or verification phase. Historically, security was not mapped into each of these phases. So I just bring that up because that's where I ended up getting this list of banned functions. Thanks, Kij F. I'll just pronounce you for coming in there. That's awesome. So there was a ban.h advanced one as well, which was another list of functions that you shouldn't use. But we're just sticking with these right now. And my thought was initially, let's create a little script with IDAPython that looks through the imports table of a Windows binary, or at the the procedural linkage table and the global offset table on a Linux ELF binary to see if any of these functions exist, if they're being linked. And if they are, then what we can do is identify them and set a breakpoint. So if you run it the first time, it toggles breakpoints on anytime it sees one of these banned functions. And if you run it a second time, it toggles the breakpoints off. And it's such a simple idea and nothing novel. Again, this was written probably 10 years ago now. I don't remember exactly when I wrote it, but it's been quite useful. One of the first uses of it that I had was that I was working on Sophos antivirus at the time. Back when Sophos antivirus main, like the engine, was written in C++. I don't think it's been written in C++ for some time now. But when I ran this script against that, that's what I was using as my target test kind of environment. And I found a ton of hits on stir copy, just a regular old stir copy. And I remember one example was that stir copy would be used to copy the DLL names into the console window when you bring up the main Sophos engine. And you could see that if the DLL name was too long, theoretically, it would buffer overflow on the stack in this case. I think it was on the stack. It might have been on the heap. I don't recall. But that was a significant finding to me. If you find that a security product is using a function like stir copy, now it's not guaranteed that just because you use a function like stir copy that there's a vulnerability, of course. But if there's any ability for a user to influence something that is being copied, obviously there's a potential overflow condition that could be there. Well, thank you so much. There's a couple people joining. Awesome. That's amazing. And if you do join, please do hit me up on the Discord so I can add you into that group. Thank you. All right, so I'm not going to go through this script a bunch, but like it's not beautiful the way it's written, and I didn't document it too terribly well. But let me see if I can actually execute it once. If I go over here to IDA, let me see if I can bring up Sophos antivirus real quickly, because then we're going to actually write one instead of just talking about one that's already written. Okay, I don't know if it's on here on this system, but I'm going to check. Yeah, it is here. Okay, great. So I'm going to load it. All right, so here's Sophos antivirus, the old engine. And as you can see, it's already got a breakpoint on stir copy there because I already had run the script in the past, apparently. So if I bring up the script again and run it, it should turn those breakpoints off, and you can kind of see what it does. So I'm going to go ahead and say, we'll go to File, and we'll run Script File. You can also run Alt F7, and we're going to run this banned function script right here. So when we run it, real quickly it runs, and I'm going to bring this up. And I know it's kind of small, but over in the bottom left-hand side, you can see it found stir copy, stir cat, and a bunch of other ones. And not only that, you can see all the different locations where it found that those functions were being called. Like right here, you can see stir copy at that location. Let me run the script again, and you'll see the breakpoints get turned on. So we'll say script file, and then banned functions. And there you can see the breakpoint got turned on. And one of the things I always point out in this particular example with this antivirus engine is that when you look inside a function, this is one block, one function within, or one block within one function. And you can see right in the same block, there's a call to stir copy, a call to stir cat, and another call to stir cat. And then up higher on over here, you can see there's even more calls to stir copy right there at that location. So my point of that is, if you end up finding some legacy code that does in fact use a function that should not be used, like stir copy, there's a good chance it's used all over the place. And one of the things I show in one of the courses I teach is one possible way in which you might be able to repair a canary is by having multiple calls to stir copy from the same function, because a lot of times a canary is going to have a null byte in it, even if it's random. Often it starts with null bytes, or if it's a static canary, it's going to have null bytes in it. And in order to be able to write those null bytes, stir copy, since it terminates with a null byte, often gives you the opportunity to terminate the nulls in the right position due to kind of how little endian writes things in reverse order. So just some interesting things to think about. That being said, let's get over to actually a script. But I already gave the example as to why I like PyCharm. Because again, we have that kind of client server model that with using IPython that we can kind of go back and forth between the two. So let's jump over to PyCharm. We'll create a new Python script here. Oh, that's not what I wanted. All right, so let's go ahead and I don't want to create a new project. All I really wanted to do is create a new little Python script, so it's not something as big as a project. All right, we'll just call it new project, even though I don't want it to be a project. I'm just going to call this one jump reg. So jump reg, what it's going to be is a script that, because I haven't really put too much thought into it, what I want to do is kind of treat it like how we would begin writing a ROP gadget finder. So we might want to look for return instructions, the C3 opcode. And if we find those, we can iterate backward 1 byte, 2 bytes, 3 bytes, 4 bytes, so on and so forth. We set something called the depth. And each time we iterate backwards a byte from the return value, we can go and check to see whether or not, if at that starting point on the number of bytes backward, the end of that code sequence would terminate with the return instruction. So you see the point there, we're looking for C3s, we iterate backwards some depth we set, maybe it's 15, and we one at a time step back 1 byte, 2 bytes, 3 bytes. And each time we step back, we take a look at what the instruction would be if we begin at that address to see if the code sequence terminates with the return or a jump if we're looking for that. I don't want to go into that much depth because that's going to take a long time. We'd spend the whole hour or two doing nothing but writing a beginning of a ROP chain tool. What I want to do is start with something more basic. What we'll do is check to see if we can find any jump instruction to a register. So that'll be the idea. We'll parse through the code. We'll look for jump EDI or jump RDI, jump reg 15, whatever we want it to be, and see how easily we can get something like that set up. Because obviously if we write a script in IDA, then we're going to be able to use that anywhere we want. All right, let me actually, I did not want to start a whole project like this. Why is it not giving me the option I wanted? Let's just create a new Python. I should have just done it this way in the first place because I don't want to be in a project here. Let me actually close out PyCharm real quick. Bring this fresh copy up here. So I need to update the version on this system as well. I'm just going to bring back an error. All right. Give me a second here. All right, so open that guy back up, and then for whatever reason last time it wasn't giving me this option, so all is good now. I'm going to call it jump reg because I'm not trying to start a whole new project here. It's something basic. All right, so now that we got this up, I'm going to go ahead and import IDA utils. And there's different modules, of course. Some of these modules are going to be loaded by default when you just bring up IDA. Other ones you're going to have to map in. So you shouldn't always have to say the module name in it to prepend it with that if it's something that's automatically brought in. But the first thing we're going to do, okay, print. I'm just going to say print, and then we're going to say running our call slash jump reg script. All right, easiest part, right? So first thing I'll do is create a mnemonic little Python list here called mnemonic. And the only thing I want to check for in this example is I want to look for calls and I want to look for jump instructions. ChatGPT to locate fix buggy plug. Oh yeah, nice. Yeah. Yeah, get used to using that stuff as a real good aid. So next I'm going to say, okay, the two instructions I care about are call and jump. And now with operands. So I want to look for registers. Specifically, let's use like a bunch of the 64-bit registers in this example. So I'll just call this list regs. And then we'll say rax, rbx, rcx. I'm not going to do all of them because it takes too long and you get the point. rdx. And then let's do a couple other ones. RDI, R8, and then we'll do one more, R9. All right, so we've got our two lists. Obviously, that's our opcodes and operands, our instructions and operands. And then next thing here is where we go in, and if you don't know the function names, you're going to need to bring up something to help you out. So I usually just bring up, let me see if the internet connectivity is on this machine. Right, can't even spell it right, but that's okay. And I'm going to search for, so one of the ones I always forget is seg by base. So seg by base, that's one of the old examples before they changed the API of the name of a function. But for whatever reason, I forget sometimes what the new one's called. So I'm just going to say seg by base, IDAPython port, and it should give me this list here of every single function you could possibly need to port. And there they all are. And I'm sure there's a script out there that does this for you, but I'm just doing this one manually because I think I should remember the rest of them. So I'm going to say Command F and search for seg by base. And you can see down here on the bottom, seg by base is ported over to get segment by selector. So that's the new function that I need to use, get segment by selector. So let's go over to our project here. So get seg by selector. It's just SEL, right? Yep. All right. So I'm going to say variable ADR address equals get segment by selector. And then we need to use another. So what we want to get basically is the name of the segment that we care about, or section that we care about, is the code segment, right? So that's .text. So I want to get basically the address of where the code segment of whatever input file I'm running this script against. I want to get that address as to where it starts. And then what I want to do is iterate over all the addressing in the code segment, because I know the code there is executable, and those are going to be ones that are useful for me. So I'm going to pass it an argument, which is selector by name. And then the segment we care about is .text. And that should be good. And then we're going to say end is simply get segment end, and then based on address. This is an example right here where on IDA 8.4, I remember I started getting error messages. It wasn't just this one, but it's this one and some other ones. And I just haven't taken the time in to debug it to see what it wants. I think it wants a different EAT type, but more on that later if we have to deal with it. But all we've done so far is grab the start address of the text segment and then gotten the end, basically. And that's the range of addressing we're going to cross over. I'll just create a little while loop here. Obviously, we can do this in many different ways. While adder is not at the end, and adder is not equal to bad address. So I think there's a -1 or a -1 that we would get. We'll say instruction as our variable here equals. Now I think this one inside of IDA utils, I believe, unless it yells at me, this one still uses the old function name style. If it gives us an error, then we'll go ahead and figure that out. But it's IDAPython. And see how all the introspection is coming up because we met that stuff in. So decode instruction is the one we want right there. And then based on the address. So we're decoding the instruction at the address where we're currently at as we iterate through the code segment. And then we'll say if, this is going to get a little bit ugly because I don't want to put too much thought into making it something beautiful, but we'll say if instruction is not none and idc.print. See, this is the beautiful thing about mapping the introspection over. Like you can see it all popping up here, which is probably why I don't remember these names oftentimes because I rely too much on that, which is not a bad thing, of course. So instruction.ip in mnemonic print operand. I think it used to not require a second positional argument here, but now it does. So I'm just putting 0 because, you know, 0 is always a good option if you don't know what's there. In reges. So my code might not be perfect, but hopefully it works. We'll see print in hexadecimal the address, and then we'll say idc.print instruction mnemonic again. Print the operand, and that should be good. And if we jump back here through the loop, we'll say address equals next address. I think this might be good enough. I don't know. We're going to find out in a second here if it runs. But hopefully you see the goal, the point of this. Again, we've got a Python list with our instructions that we care about and the operand. So it's the instructions call and jump to these specific registers. We could add more if we want. And then we're getting the address of the text segment based on its name. And then we're defining the end of the text segment. And then we're going to go through until we hit a bad address. And we're going to decode the instructions based on the address where we're currently at, where the program counter is currently. In this case, it's the EAT. And then we're basically going in and just making sure that on the addresses where we're checking, if anything is a call, that we then grab the operand if it's included in this list that we created, and then just print that out on the screen. A very, very simple script. But, you know, it's only a few lines of Python. Let's see if the thing even works. So now we're going to go ahead and say run it. We got an error. Let's see what it said here. Import IDA bytes, line 21, import IDA bytes. Let's see. Import IDA utils. Okay, let me check through here to see if I have anything that's not working right. If anybody sees an error, please do call it out. Looks good. So on my side, everything seems to be looking good, and I don't know what the issue is here. Let's get rid of this import IDC for a second. I don't think that's bothering anything, but let's check over on IDA. I don't think it's running, but we'll take a look at IDA. No. Module can't be found. That's bindiff. That's something else. All right. Interesting. I'm not seeing anything that's like a real. Yeah, no, it shouldn't. It's one of those things where this typically just has no issue working. Let me check actually to see if this band function script even works from here. Okay, so we're getting a different problem here from IDA hex raise and port star. All right, yeah, there's some goodness not mapped in here, unfortunately. Shoot, I didn't want to have to worry about troubleshooting stuff like this on this stream. I think, let me check something. Just give me a moment. This is the fun part about live streaming this stuff is, you know, I'm just wondering if missing a comma. Oh yeah, I see that. That shouldn't be causing the issue, but that's that's another one here. All right, this environment here has everything mapped in appropriately. I'm hoping that that's all the issue is, but we're gonna find out here real soon. So let me nope, it's not what I wanted to have happen. All right, give me a second. I'm just doing it the lame way. All right. Beef. All right, let's where did I create that guy? So all right. No, the giveaway didn't happen. I'm just looking on a different system right now while I check out this guy. I don't even think it's in there. Yeah, you could do it a different way, but the whole point was being to use it here inside of in this guy. Let me go ahead and grab do it a lazy way. Yeah, I don't think it's that. Sorry for those of you joining here and waiting for me to get this stupid thing to work. And I'm actually looking at two different systems right now. So that is not what's supposed to be there. Thanks. All right. I just moved something over into this environment in the background. So let me see what happens here. All right. And for some reason, it's not showing up in the run configurations here, and it should just be doing that. Let me actually grab this because this is getting on my nerves right now and jump over to this guy. Let's paste it in here. And let's just use this one instead. So scratch one, is that in the build? All right. Let's try and see if we can run this one. All right. So that ran. Let's go over to IDA. So it's running the script right now. Let's see if it actually gets anywhere. All right, so we didn't get the error, which is the nice thing, because that environment that I was using was set up properly, thankfully. But we're not getting any results. So if we go back over here, it looks like it ran no errors this time, but for whatever reason, we didn't get any results, any jumps or calls, which you would think there would be one over there. Let me go ahead and bring up something else in IDA and see if we can get a different result. I'll bring up the Sophos antivirus engine again, and let's try run it on this one. Okay, let's jump over to IDA. So running the scripts, we're not getting any results. So there's a small chance that there might not be any jumps or calls inside this to those registers. This is actually 32-bit, so that actually is not going to have the results that we would want to see. So let me see if there's any other one that I could find here that might work. Let's try payload restrictions.dll and run the script again. All right, it ran. Not getting any results. So we're either not getting any results because it is there are none, or it's not working properly. This script is actually quite simple and should be working just fine. Oh, someone did notice a typo before, but I got rid of that one typo. Did anyone see a different typo from before? I don't think there was one. I think everything is fine with this one. We're just not getting any results here. We could try adding additional registers, but I don't want to waste time on that. We could see in banned functions earlier, we had no issues running this one, which is great. If I run this from here, it should work as well. Let me try running it directly from inside IDA. So no results. Let's make sure the banned function script is working. All right. So it is executing, which is great, but that's payload restriction, so it's not going to have any results for that one. I'm just validating that everything is working real quickly. Like I said, I was having some problems with IDA 8.4. This one should be no issue. All right, so that script still works completely fine. We can see we got the calls to stir copy, stir cat, all those examples. We can go to the location, takes us right there to where that specific call is, which is great. So we can see all the different calls to the banned functions that shouldn't be there, like stir cat and stir copy. The other one I wanted to try to make is going to be one for DLL side loading. So let me do this in a couple parts. So my apologies for that last one with the environment not being set up the way it should have been in advance. But let me go ahead and bring up the urlmon.dll. Now this one is a library that was missing from Windows 10 when it came out, and it ended up being involved in a unsafe DLL load vulnerability. And I remember Greg Linares found this one, and then I went and dug it up and was able to diff it and pull it out real quick and then see if you can weaponize it. But what I wanted to simply do here is go ahead and say, let's diff against the newer version. So once this is done running, if everything goes well, we should just have one hit. And what I want to show you is kind of how we found it to do a patch diff. And then my goal is to hopefully get a script going that actually finds the vulnerability as if it were a 0-day. And then you would have a working script, for example, that would be able to then go and find any instance of this type of vulnerability that might be out there. So let's close all this. And if we sort by similarity, you go up to the top, we've got only one function that has changes, and that's build user agent string mobile helper. So when we bring this one up, as long as bindiff doesn't take up all my memory with Java, we should get this pretty quickly. All right, so we get the graphic diff of this. Just click on one of the changes, and we should be able to see here pretty quickly that the vulnerability will stick out. So we've got the unpatched version on the left, and we've got the patched version on the right. And you can see on the unpatched version that the DW flags argument, the DW flags argument is actually being passed in as 0, which if you look on MSDN, a DW flags argument of 0 with load library call is actually the safe DLL search path option or safe DLL search order option. And that's that 0 being XORed into register 8 right there. On the patch version, you can see that DW flags is set to 800, which is going to be the option that says you can only pull the library from system32. In the unsafe version on the left, the safe DLL search order list says start with like the current folder where the program is running, check system32, check system, and check a couple other places before finally going and checking the current directory, which could certainly be a UNC file path, as well as check anywhere in the path environment variable. So if you've got Python installed as where anybody can use it, then it's going to be a world readable, world writable directory, for example. Or if there's anything else in the path where someone could write to, they can in theory put a malicious DLL at that location. And then when it gets loaded, you've got persistence, of course. Just a simple example of how you might go to exploit that one. But that's not the purpose of what I want to show here in this session. So you can see we've got the vulnerability that's being fixed. There's two issues as to why this is exploitable. One is that it had the bad option for the DW flags argument of 0. And then the second issue was that the library didn't exist on the operating system. So that's why it was trying to find it anywhere it could. So if we go back and actually look inside IDA for build user agent string, so let's go over here. And here's the function. Let me close out this window. And if we simply look at the imports for load library, and then we cross-reference it, it takes us right into build user agent string mobile helper. And you can see right there the DLL that's missing from the file system. So phoneinfo.dll was the one that was not on the default build of Windows 10, which combined with the bad DW flags argument made this an exploitable condition, something we could use potentially for persistence. So my point of this was, if you wanted to write an IDAPython script, which everything was going swimmingly with the last one until I didn't have the build environment set up, what could we possibly do? Like, how would we maybe approach going and looking to see if the presence of this type of vulnerability exists anywhere else in any other DLL? Well, one thing you obviously have to do is run something like procmon and watch to see if it's unable to load any DLLs that it's looking for. We're looking for something like name not found in a filter with procmon to see if some library inside whatever application you're loading is not found. So we have that problem to solve, to go and check to see if the existence of the library is there, but we also have to figure out a way to script up an automated way to check to see if it's a vulnerable condition. So the easy thing that comes to mind is use a script to look for any call to the load library family of functions, like load library exa and exw, and then iterate above it to look at the arguments that are being passed to load library. If we can find the DW flags argument position, and we can check to see if it's going to be a 0 or something that's not 800, then it might be an exploitable condition. So how would we script that up? We also probably have to assume that the DW flags argument is not going to be in the same position. There are also going to be other ways in which that argument could get passed. It's not necessarily going to be that it's XORing a register to 0 it out. There could be many ways. So if you can get the most basic version of a script working to find this vulnerability, then obviously you can modify it to make it better and better. But the success indicator of a script like this would be that it finds this vulnerability and it finds any other call to load library within this input file that potentially has a DW flags argument of 0 or anything that's not 800. Remember, 800 is the one that only checks system32 for the presence of that particular module. So this one's going to be a little bit bigger, which kind of scares me because we had a little bit of issues with the last one. But I think our issue with the last one was solely due to the fact that the build environment wasn't set up with that project. This project I have loaded now with a bunch of random scripts does have that all set up to where it's able to communicate successfully and all the introspection and things are mapped in. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new file here. And yeah, if you are waiting for the IDA Pro giveaway, that is going to be happening after this example that I hopefully will be able to get working. So I'll just call this one dlsearch.py. And we'll have to think about what we want to do here. So I'm going to be doing most of this from my head. We might have to look up a couple of things. So let's start again. We can actually steal some of that code from the last one. So let's jump over to this guy here, and let's steal these 2 lines because I need those again. And we'll paste those in. So remember what these do. These are a couple lines that simply goes and grabs the text segment. So we're saying get the segment by the selector. Well, we're using the selector function to get the text segment, and that will get us the start address of the text segment. And then we've got our end location because obviously we only want to search through the code segment here. So I'm just going to create a little iterator here. Python is not my super language, so I'm sure there are many ways we can do this stuff better. But I'll start again saying while the address is less than the end and the address is not equal to bad address. So for function EA, so EA basically is the I forget what it stands for, but when we say EA, we're typically talking about the address that we're currently on. Like if you go over to IDA and you click on that right there, that's going to be your EA position wherever it's located here. All right, let me jump back over. So for function EA in functions, so that's going to be all the functions inside this segment. Get segment start, the address, and then get the segment end. Same as before. I could have probably grabbed this code as well. All right, so say operands equals print operands. Give it the second argument because it always wants it nowadays. If it's equal to. Now this is where we need to put in the what its name is in the imports. Yeah, effective address. I think you're right there. Thank you. So I think if we go back over to IDA here, this is what the import's called. So I'm just going to start by using EXW. I won't worry about EXA right now, but that's exactly what I'm going to use here and where I got the name from, or where I need to get the name from. So let's say if the operand CS, not really an operand, but it's fine. That should be good there. I hope that double underscore doesn't cause a problem. We'll find out soon. All right, this is where I might get a little bit ugly. So if print operand previous head. So that means go back to the address prior. So there's different ways we can do this. We can go back like 1 byte before the instruction we're currently at, or we can go back an entire instruction based on how it's being interpreted by the program. Like, think about what I'm saying there is, like, if you're writing a ROP chain and if you index into a byte position that's not part of the intended instruction, that works totally fine. But sometimes you don't want to iterate backwards single bytes. You want to actually go back to the start address of the prior instruction. So here we're saying print operand previous head adder, the second argument. All right, is equal to, now we're looking for 800 hex because that's going to be the safe DLL, no, not the safe DLL search row. This is the one that says only get the libraries from system32. So that's why I'm using that one. I'm sure some of you are like, wow, we're going to sit here and watch this dude slowly type and code things out while he makes us wait for the IDA Pro giveaway. Yes, that's the point of this. We're trying to get this to work here. So previous head adder. So that's going to be good there. We need to do the same thing again, though. So let's go out one more. And previous address is going to be 1. This is getting really long and ugly. Let me type out the last piece here. This should be the ugliest line we have to do. Print. And if I had time to sit here and think about this, I could probably do it way more eloquently, but we're just going to do it the sloppy way. Previous head. So I'm going back 3 now because I'm checking the 3 prior arguments leading up to the call to load library. We might have to do more than this, but this is the ugly way I'm doing it. Previous head is stepping 1 instruction at a time. So we got to the last previous head, address 1, and then equals 800 hex. And I hope that this is correct. I might be missing a bracket or something. We'll find out. Okay, so we'll go to the next address. And we should be good there. I think I'm probably missing a parenthesis. 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3. No, seems to look good. I think we're okay. We'll find out. It'll yell at us. All right, so next we're going to say else. So I'm going to go over to step 2, just thinking out loud in my head here. Sorry. Where do we want to go next? Generate the disassembly line. All right. All right, we get operand value. So we have to take a step back. Thinking the letters in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Should have to step back 9. And then same thing as before. So I'm just defining the parameters for how to print out what exactly we want, since I'm not going to create some little name demangler here. All right, so results, let's depend it. The address, we want the address and we want the DLL name. So we'll put those two there. Increment. I forgot something. Cool, I'll go check here in a second. All right, where did I forget something? Something before line. What line number? I'm not seeing it right now, so I'll wait for you to respond back and come back to it. Okay, so we got that guy, and let's take a step back here. If else, okay, address, and I'm getting lost in my brain here, so let's try to get this going. And then address, we got to go to the next address now. All right, so that should be pretty much it, but I want to print out the results to a file there. It should be generate disasm line. Oh. You are right. Thank you. I accidentally put a parenthesis there. All right, generate this as a line. So that looks okay. Now what I want to do is I want to write this out to the file system, so it's not just something that's stuck in the window here. So let's try to do that real quick. So print, put a little format string in here. Total load libraries. Want to see the total number of found, and then pass it our length. And then what do we want to do? Oh shoot! All right, that's fine. And then if the results are not empty, awesome. So if the results are not empty, let's create a file. So a file name, we're going to call it, oh shoot, there's a new function for this one for getting the file name in the new IDA API. Well, not new, but relatively new. I think it's get root file name. We're about to find out if it yells at us or not. All right, we're good there. We're going to split it because I know it's going to be the dots in there. No, that should be it. Okay. All right, phone in there. F equals open. What we're going to do after this as well is I will get this one sliced up so that it's actually a better video, so it's not all that hunting around for stuff like I was doing earlier. So open, we'll create a folder called temp. We're going to write the file name. So .txt. No, we don't need that. All right, so file name, right permission. That should be good. Again, please, if you find any typos, tell me out, because I did not realize I was going to be writing this much with what I want to do. And I have a feeling that there's no way this is going to work perfectly out of the box. So our input file, we would do it in C++, but it'll take 10 times as long and way more chances for messing things up. So all right, get root file name again. All right, we're good there. Let's put a line. Let's put some lines in here so it looks a little bit cleaner on the screen. Just put a bunch of hyphens. That should be enough. All right, now we're getting really close to the end here. So for A in results, let's just say that. If A offset 1, what is the problem here? Why is it doing this? Results if A1. Why is it not indenting in right now? Line 24, there's a white space after the exclamation point. All right, that should be fine. I still don't know why it's not indenting right now for me, which is making me nervous here. Anyone see another issue? All right, we'll get back to that. That's making me nervous, though. I need to fix line 10. Thank you. I'm going to go back to that in a moment. Where I'm going to get done this line here. Let's close that. Pass the argument in, which is going to be A offset 0, right? All right, that looks good. Okay, you said too many spaces and indentations. Fix line 10. Line 10. Let's go all the way back up to line 10. What's the problem with line 10, did you see? Let's see here. 1, 2, print operand, previous head. Previous head, address. 80, print operand, previous head, address. Oh, this guy here. You're right. You got it. Good call. Thank you, sir. Good eye. Because this is a lot of crap I'm typing up here. All right, let's go down from here. Almost done, I think. F dot right. There's no way this is going to work. Not with this attitude, right? All right, write the address, and there's something wrong here too. /n. All right, write the address. I think this is why I haven't done a session on IDA scripting before, because it's a lot of just typing on the screen. Although we could have, I guess, just gone over scripts, but that's not as informative here. So, all right, so 0. Close that out. All right, that should be good. Thanks, Ruben. Appreciate it. All right. We are at the end, finally. And then we get to troubleshoot. Last thing, I'm just going to print the results, or say the results are written. All right, I think we're good there. And then else. Okay, that should be everything, but I'm sure we're going to have a couple issues here. Let me just check something real quick. So f.close, we've got that, and we print. Let's just leave this up here. No, it should be back further. All right, let's see here. I'm gonna save this and watch it fail. But hey, it's that's a lot. That's a lot of stuff we just typed there pretty quickly. So let's see if this actually works. And it's not showing up here for some reason, like I want it to be. So let's see here. Run. No, not banned functions. I want you to be running DLL search. Why are you not showing up here? The indentation from 24 to 25 is like 12 spaces. Need to bring those in. 24 to 25. Yeah, I don't know why those all did that. Oops. It's not letting me do that. Why? Well, we'll see if it yells at us. All right, let's go over to IDA. I'm going to run it from there since it's not letting me do it from PyCharm right now, and I don't feel like troubleshooting with that. So let's go and run a script file. And was that on my desktop? Where is that? DLL search. There we go. So what's the error going to be? All right, there's our first error. So get segment start, invalid syntax, line 7. Let's go take a look at line 7. All right, so one, two. I'm not seeing any issue there off the top of my head. Missing colon, am I? Oh, thank you. Just sitting there right on it. All right, so let's jump back to IDA. Let's see what our next issue is. So script file. Oh, geez. Argument 1 of type EAT, get segment. Get seg. This, okay, why would it have a problem with that type? It's probably a swig object. Let me take this line right here and put that into IDA directly. Takes that one, no problem. And then the next line is the paste that in, and this is where we're going to get our error. All right, argument type of EAT, which should be a 64-bit address, I would imagine. Seg N versus Seg M. No, it's Seg M is the segment, so it's the first 4 letters, so that should be fine. All right, proxy of swig. It's a swig object, like I said, segment T. So we need to get that over to EAT type. Anyone off the top of their head? Any good ideas? And what are we at here? We've got, okay. All right, so just out of curiosity, I think I'm going to go over and, you know what I'm going to do right now, though, before I troubleshoot this, because I know that a lot of you are waiting for the IDA giveaway and may not want to hang out here while we debug this stuff. But this is pain, you know, this is what it is here. So yo in the segment to use start EA or end EA property get EAT. Oh, okay, we'll take a look at that in a moment. All right, so I know that some of you are waiting for the IDA Pro giveaway. Let's go ahead and do that so that way some of you guys I know probably have meetings to go to and such can go ahead and drop, and the rest who want to hang out here and continue troubleshooting and scripting can do so. So let me get this question ready. The question is going to be a trivia question, and the first person who posts the answer as the way I'm expecting to see it, there really is only one specific answer that I'm looking for, will win the IDA Pro license and the Hexray decompiler license. If you are the winner, please go onto Twitter and DM me and take a screenshot as well of your answer on the screen, just so I can do some validation, and then we'll get that for you. So the question is going to be as follows. Let me type it up so that it prints the same time I say it. So I'm typing it in the chat window here, so give me a moment. All right, here it comes. I'm going to say it first and then type it or hit enter. It's if I want to move the double word. So if I want to move the double word out of the ESI register and into the quad word register R15 with sign extension, what instruction would I use? And now it's printed. So again, if I want to move the D word out of ESI into the quad word R15 register with sign extension, what instruction would I use? That was fast, Daniel. And you are correct. Wow. Very, very fast speed there, man. That was impressive. Did you ask ChatGPT? Did you know it? Did you have the manual up? What was that? So awesome. And I know who you are, Daniel, so you don't have to worry about doing a screenshot and such like that. But awesome job. Very, very fast. Congratulations on that one. And thank you so much to Hexrays for getting us that one. Types faster than I think. Yeah, exactly. Nice. Nice job. Next time I do one of these, I'm going to do it in the form of hacking a binary. So I think I want it to be another one of those challenges where you have to go and hack away at something, and we'll get something set up like that relatively soon. But again, congratulations for those of you who are heading out. Have a great weekend. Otherwise, we're going to hang out here for a bit longer and continue on with doing some scripting. All right. Just give a second here while I get something. All right, let's just go back over to our session here. All right. Oops. Why is that coming up there? All right, let's jump back up here. All right, so here's our whole script again, and I'm going to go ahead and resave that. Let's go and troubleshoot again. I'm going to jump over to IDA. I don't know why it's not showing up there in my project options. And we're going to run this. All right. Invalid syntax. Interesting. Now we got something else popping up here. Line 18. All right, what are we missing here? 1, 2, 2. Is that the line it was complaining about? Just run it one more time real quick. All right, generate this as a line, get operand value. All right, let me pull my window back up. Great. R instead of address, is that what it says? Let's see. Oh, yep, you've got that space in there. Nice, nice eye. Man, it's great having a couple hundred people watching over my shoulder with helping out here. All right, let's jump back over to IDA, see what the next error message we get is. Script file, DLLs. All right, there we go back to the EAT type again. This is one of those things that changed from earlier versions of IDA. And in fact, I'm going to check something here real quick. Let's save. I'm going to drop out of here. And we're going to go over and bring up a different version of IDA real quick. Let's bring on default IDA 8 for a moment. I just want to see if we get the same error message with that same file so we can see what the difference is. I don't know that I have the copy of IDA that, URLmon that it wants. No, because it's only the IDA database file and not the actual file itself. Let's see if URLmon happens to be on this guy. The same version. All right, I'm going to let it load this version of urlmon.dll, and we're going to try it against this version of IDA to see if we get a difference. Let's give it a moment to do its disassembly. Yeah, so the giveaway was for IDA Pro with one decompiler. You get to choose the architecture. All right, we'll let this do its analysis, and while it's doing that, I'm going to see if I can actually run a script to see if it throws an error. All right, well, it's doing something. See if it actually runs or if it's just hanging because it's doing its auto analysis. No, here we go. Oh, actually, it did work. We just don't have the folder it wants to write to. So you can see the results down there. Okay, so this is something with that EAT type. I just need to go and troubleshoot that that different argument type it's expecting there, that swig object that it's mentioning, which is the C++ wrapper. But if I create the folder temp, it should have no problem. We see the results written on the screen here. So let's go over to C and just create a folder real quickly called temp. And rerun the script. All right, should be done any moment here. And we shouldn't get that error this time. Yeah, okay, everything worked this time. Great. So we've got it written to the file system, which is what I wanted to do at the end here. Now look at the results, though. We see the calls to load library, and we see com control 32, we see dxgi, we see kernel 32. So we see all these different DLLs, and if we go to one of them, so if we double click on an address, it takes us right to it, and we can see on here, there's com control 32 getting loaded. Well, look at the DW flags argument. It's a 0. So the script is working, which is exactly what we wanted it to do. The version of URLmon that I loaded is a patched version, so that's why it didn't find the build user agent string mobile helper, but the script works. So any one of these we should be able to go to, and the DW flags argument should be not 800. So here you can see it's 4000 hex because we're only checking to make sure it's not 800, and I don't know what 4000 hex is. If we go and look at MSDN real quick, we should be able to see that. Let's find out. DW flags. See if it shows us the DW flags arguments. So there they are. 800, that's the one that we were checking to make sure it's not. What we just saw was what, 4,000 hex? Was that what it was? Let's take a look real quick. Yeah, it was 4,000 hex. Let's go back over here and just do a quick search. $4000. It doesn't even find it on there. That's interesting. So it's not a regular option that is on MSDN. So I have no idea what 4000 hex does. Could be just an invalid one that someone's loading in, or it could be one that's just not documented here. But either way, the script works. If we look at another one of these examples over here, you can see that this one, the DW flags argument, is zeroed out again. So it's working fine, which is exactly what I wanted to make sure it did. So that's not too bad. I mean, that's a lot of code that we just had to write up real quickly off the top of our heads, and just got a couple mistakes, which wasn't bad. But the big problem was that EAT type that it was expecting in the argument. Oh, yeah, you're right, Jim. It's probably a combination of flags. But what would be that 4000 one? Let's see if there's anyone that goes that high. Jump back over here. I didn't see anything else taken up that position in the fourth byte. So here's 2000. Yeah, I don't see anything else that would cause it to be 4000, but definitely a bit masked there. Cool. All right. So to finalize here, if we jump back over to PyCharm, we took a look first at the banned function script, which is an old one that I wrote. That one just seemed to work fine. It finds functions that are deprecated, that shouldn't be used in any project, and then it sets a breakpoint on it. And then we tried writing another script that was a jump register one, that was this guy right here. And basically it's supposed to look for calls and jumps and then the associated registers. We didn't get any results when we ran it the first time. Let me try running it this time and see if it behaves any better, since we're on that different version of IDA, even though it shouldn't matter. So I'm going to say script file, jump reg2, and see if it's actually running. Yeah, it's running. So we've got the spin wheel. Let's see if it finds anything here in a moment. And there we go. So now it's working fine. We got some error here at the end because I didn't create something called scripts, but you can see it found all these different jump RAXs, jump RCXs. So the scripts that we wrote all did work. We just ran into a bit of a snafu between PyCharm and IDA because I didn't have my build environment set up properly in the beginning, and then also the issue with the EAT type being expected. So Hamon says you can use adder and EA in line 3 to get this into the segment. Actually, cool. Good point. Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to call it here because that was a bit of a long session and ran into a couple issues, but I think we resolved for the most part. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to go now and find out what I need to do to fix that one issue with the EAT type, and then I will tweet that or post it in the description in this video once it gets uploaded, so that we have the answer there. But thank you so much, and have a great weekend. Do appreciate it. Next week, I think we have Mr. Ogilvy on from X64 Debug to take us through kind of how he went into designing that project and where it's at today, as it is like the only and best user mode usable Windows debugger for 64-bit right now, aside from WinDebug itself, of course. But other than that, have a great weekend, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks.